So the stories you tell yourself. People often hypnotize themselves by stories about who they are and what life means and what they can achieve. So is there one particular story you could become aware of and rewrite and find that your external world changes for the better? It's happened to me and many others. So several people have asked me about the concept of the MindStory Code in the novel Helio Tropez. The MindStory Code is like an operating system in the human mind. It's a form of consciousness technology that organizes life experiences in story form. And as the world changes, the MindStory Code that the characters and the humans they support live by, both collectively and individually, needs to change to adapt as the world changes, and that's part of the life mission of those main characters, those with a pentata soul. So in this episode, I'd like to explore how to create stories that empower us individually and collectively versus disempower us, because we live in story like a fish lives in water, and we just often don't realize it. For example, two people can experience the same thing and create a whole different story about what it means. Like, have you ever talked to a sibling about something you both experienced as a child and they have an entirely different take on it than you do? Or think of two people reviewing the same movie with totally opposite opinions, or world situations like what we're dealing with now with the pandemic and the lockdowns and everything, and people are having very different points of view. So we create a story based on how we view the world and then find corroborating evidence from people, media, facts, everything. And each person thinks their view is the truth, when often it's just a possible worldview that seems real because it's organized in a detail. When often it's just a possible worldview that seems real because it's organized in this detailed story form in the subconscious, which hypnotizes you into seeing that as your reality. And it serves us all to dismantle these stories and see if they serve us, and figure out what's an interpretation versus a fact, what's real versus unreal, what's truth versus untruth, what's truth versus untruth. Like, many of the stories we tell ourselves are destructive if you really think about it, but we perhaps only see the destruction in retrospect. For example, this is a typical one for females, especially when they're younger and easily manipulated by the media. So when I look at pictures of myself as a teen, I look normal weight, but I had a story that I was fat. Maybe you can relate. It was a detailed story with me as the protagonist and the villain. One day I'd will myself to undereat, I was the hero, and one day I'd binge, I was the villain. It was a war inside between good and evil. Although it was a never-ending story, it was just an epic serial broadcast that one day I hoped would result in my inner hero winning. But she never did, nor should she have. That's the way our stories keep us stuck, chasing after a happy ending that will never, nor should ever happen. Of course, like many girls at the time, I can see now where the story came from the media, from friends and family members who are all also manipulated by the media and the culture and their friends and family. See, I didn't look like the airbrushed, underfed women on magazine covers glamorized as the ideal. That inner story led me to become anemic, literally malnourished. I had hardly any energy. I looked pale and sickly. I mostly ate popcorn. Sad but true. Certainly I was a bit thinner, but not anything like the ideal women on the magazine cover, and I actually looked better later on when I was happy and well fed. Luckily, I learned to change that story because, one, I took a course in university about media manipulation and how it works, and number two, I worked with a counselor on self-esteem. The new story emerged where I'm an entirely different protagonist, learning to wisely discern the messages she receives and learning to make decisions from an inner place of knowing what's right for me, caring about me. And that led to the right weight and health for me at that time and at other times in my life. So that's just one example of an inner story you can change, that you tell yourself, and that can lead to a destructive or a constructive path. And many of us have a lot more than just one destructive story. Think of any behavior in your life, whether it's choices around money, food, substances, relationships, career, or whatever, that aren't going how you want. Chances are there's an underlying story. So it's not just one belief, but a whole set of characters with intentions and a whole plot and a promise of a happy ending to the story. And that's where we get locked and looped. You can't just change one belief. You have to change it at the story structure level. And when you become aware of your own stories, it frees you up like nothing else. So I wrote down many of the other stories that I've been living by because, I had to really think about it and go deep into the subconscious to find them, as you might have to as well. And sometimes what seemed like a fact of life, I discovered was actually just a made-up story. And of course, I help my clients with this. So for example, say a client wants to make $100K a year or more with an online business, and she's halfway through the year and she's only made $20K. So the external reality of that might activate, and often does, an old story about being an underachiever. Or I've often heard the story of, I'm a victim to the circumstances of the world. So those stories tend to happen to everyone who is out pursuing a bigger life than the life they currently have, which is almost any entrepreneur. So sticking to those kinds of stories, the limiting ones, will mean that that person isn't likely to hit the goal, because your current circumstances will trigger stories that will drive you to create certain kinds of results, which will then become your new circumstances. So you need to be paying attention to how you're portraying yourself as you go through the adventures of life. And here are some of the sentences that let me know there is an underlying stories when I hear them from clients or colleagues or friends. For example, I'm just not good at attracting money. I need to get better skills. Or I'm not the type of person who does well in business. I love what I do, but I just can't do the marketing and sales stuff. I just don't like it. If this lockdown wasn't happening, well, then I would be successful. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. So all those sound very innocent. Maybe they sound good and humble and maybe like a good idea, very practical. I mean, especially the one about getting better at attracting money. Hey, why not? But that sentence, if you really think about it, is perpetuating an underlying story that you're not already good at it. Now, in other podcasts, I've talked about creating future stories that feature you as the protagonist that is good at whatever you're not good at now. You can actually write that story before you create the results. In fact, anytime you've improved or changed some aspect of life, quite frankly, that's exactly what you did in your head. So now I'm just giving you permission to do it for anything. Doesn't mean you can create anything. Maybe, maybe not. There are your stories, and then there's other people's stories, and then there's global stories to contend with. But the person who believes their story the most always wins. And in fact, if you believe that quote, it's good to have an end to journey toward, but it's the journey that matters in the end, then you know that the goal you love that enlivens you is always good to follow, even if you never get there, because it sends you on an adventure of learning and growing that's exciting and that makes life fulfilling, and that is the ultimate goal of life, the journey. So future stories help us act as if we're already getting the result, and of course, that's what gets the result. strangely enough. For example, I remember having a friend in my 20s who always believed she'd be financially successful. She wasn't at the time and didn't come from that kind of family, but she just chose to see herself having a big successful business. And by the time she was in her late 20s, that's exactly what she had against all odds. So that's a good way to build belief. If you can't believe it in yourself, believe that other people like you have done it, and that's what I did and created that for myself. And I'm sure you know people like that who just know something to be true before it happens, and so it happens. Now you might say to yourself, I wish I had that kind of belief. And just so you know, it doesn't just magically happen to some people because they're lucky. They choose that. So you can choose that too. It's just a muscle to build. It's the muscle of imagination that unfortunately gets weakened by the kinds of school systems and societal norms we get exposed to on a regular basis. We see it in the stories we consume. We hear people say, oh, that's just not possible, or that's so unlikely, you should just choose something easier. But is the goal of life just to get easy goals? Sometimes, but if that's all you go for, I think you're going to be unfulfilled. So someone who is attracting, say, the amount of money they want to be attracting in their life, or believes they will, would never be thinking, I need to get better at attracting money. That doesn't mean they wouldn't learn more skills, but they would do it out of a sense of wanting to get better at something they already feel they deserve and are good at. See the difference? So notice the sentences you say to yourself and others around your limitations. They are the doorways into your hidden stories. So think of someone you know who seems like a magnet for prosperity, opportunities, income. Chances are, even when they don't have much of that, they know that a bounty of resources is just around the corner. And if it doesn't come around the corner, then they go on the adventure of learning. They have a story where they are the protagonist, just attracting money and resources and learning how to do it more and more and in better ways. And they tend to have dozens of examples where they can see that's true about themselves, where they are a magnet for all that. And the truth is, you have dozens, if not hundreds of examples where you've been a magnet for money, resources, opportunities, prosperity, right? So people who use stories in their favor tell those kind of stories to themselves, and people who let stories use them tell stories to themselves about the times where they couldn't attract money, where they lost opportunities, where they felt void of resources. And we can all go up and down in that spectrum, so just pay attention and just go in the direction where those good stories are at the front of the Rolodex and the files of your memory banks. So just write down all the times, the memories, the stories, big and small, from your past where you were a magnet for money, resources, opportunities, and prosperity. And that will be the building blocks also of the future story that you're living into. It's very hard to create a future story if the only thing you're remembering is all the times where it didn't work out, because we all have both. So pay attention to those subtle stories that seem inconsequential, those little sentences, those little throwaway thoughts, and ask yourself, if I already had the result that I'm seeking, would I even be thinking that thought? Would I even be saying that to myself? And if the answer is no, then adjust the inner story so it would be a yes. So write down those past stories of where you were good at whatever it is you want to do, attracting money, good at making an amazing contribution, good at creating value and receiving money in kind for that. Even if those stories were, heck, selling Kool-Aid as a kid, or your first full-time job in your 20s, or something recent like a client you attracted a few weeks ago. Then write the future story just for fun. And you speak in present tense like it's already happened. And this is where you have to use your imagination. where you're saying, there I am, and I'm making this amount of money, and I'm doing this kind of thing with these kinds of people, and this is how it feels when I'm doing that kind of work, and this is the value I'm creating for people. You just take yourself there, kind of like when you're a kid, where you really let yourself dream and you saw yourself doing something in the future. I remember I wanted to be an author. I'm like 12 years old, and I saw myself speaking at an event. See, I'd gone to a conference at that age, my first conference. I saw someone speak, and then they were signing books at the back of the room, and I said, I'm going to be that kind of person. And I saw myself as an adult doing that, and I totally created that because I set the story in motion then. I gave myself permission then. So you can do that anytime. Some of us have just gotten flabby in the imagination department. We gave up imagining things when we put our childhood toys in a box and gave them to the Goodwill store. But you need your imagination now more than ever. Your mind, powered by your true self, your heart-based wisdom, is a power to be reckoned with. No matter what's going on in the world around you. Perhaps even we will look back on this time in history as a powerful challenge, an opportunity to see past limitations imposed on us by others, and most importantly, by ourselves. So look at any area where you have thoughts of being incapable, where you're saying, I need to get better at this or that, because it sounds innocent enough, right? But it's not. Look for the underlying story, which is some version of I'm not good enough at it yet. So you don't want to tell yourself that you want to get better at something. See yourself on the way there and tell the story of yourself. See yourself. Just play the imagination game when you're having a walk, when you're in the shower, when you're lying in bed in the morning. Just have fun with it. Treat it like you're a story writer and you're writing the story of your life. And you can write it any way you want. And of course, the other one I hear a lot is I'm trying to. I'm trying to is not a useful sentence. I'm trying to be more organized or more focused or more prioritized. Those thoughts tend to bring your energy down as they lock you into the story that you're one of those people who just dreams of doing things differently but never does. Instead, imagine yourself being more organized, more focused, more prioritized. I'm sure there's many times you have been, so you can call on that, or you can think of someone else who's like that, or you can just make it up. Just make it up. And see yourself there. Because you'll feel the difference in your body. You'll feel energized. You'll feel excited. And then you'll just naturally do the things that a person would do if they were focused, prioritized, and attracting of good resources, right? Even when you just say a sentence as simple as, I have the potential to make more money, to be more prioritized, to love my body just as it is, it's a good turnaround on, I'm trying to make more money, or I'm trying to be more prioritized, or I'm trying to take care of myself better. Just say, I have the potential to be. It's a completely different way the brain operates. There's always the potential, right? Therefore, your mind, your higher mind, is focused on the potential and wants to create that potential. The trying is always in process and never there. So the future story of the potential is like water and sunshine on a dying plant. It brings the possibility back to life, and you'll feel the energy behind it when you say it. Just say it to yourself. I have the potential to, whatever it is. And feel how it ignites you versus I'm trying to. That's deadening. So you want to identify yourself with the protagonist in the story of who you most want to be. You want to start being the person that has the things that you want to create in your life. So you ask your higher mind to monitor what the lower mind is saying to you subconsciously in terms of limiting stories. Ask to bring it to the surface, and you'll start to see it. Because again, the higher mind, you've given it an instruction it wants to complete the goal. And when you see it, write it down, because that will really help you look at it from a whole brain level when you write it down. And when you notice yourself saying things that you wouldn't be saying if you had the result you wanted, Say to yourself, well, thanks for sharing, and purposely, with loving intention, ditch that story and just write the new one. Just create the new one in your mind. You are the screenwriter of your life, and no one else is. And if you have friends or loved ones, you can make an agreement to point it out to each other. Dave and I do that with each other. We catch each other. You just said you'll never get that project done on time. Or I'm so bad at that. Or I'm always messing that up. And especially look for universal quantifiers like always, never, or every time. And take those out of your self-talk. And then you'll start to notice the subtle ones like, oh, I'm trying. Of course, to quote Yoda, do or not do, there is no try. That's because the trying mind is always in process. As I said, it's never there. It's never a story that has a fulfilling outcome. It's the hamster on the wheel. So words and semantics in the world of quantum inner storytelling is hugely important. And once you have these keys to the kingdom, it's game over. So create from your future self and talk to yourself like you're the most precious, amazing, awesome person in the world, because of course you are. That is the truth. And the more you talk that way, the more that becomes your reality. Because in the beginning was the Word. Words are immensely powerful. Use them wisely. So that's it for today. By the way, if you're interested in exploring a practical way to truly change limiting stories you tell yourself about life and what's possible, do check out my free online masterclass, Re-Inspire. Discover a 5-step process to get clear on what's next in your life and to create results in the next 30 days without the typical self-sabotage or reversals that often happen. It's an entertaining and interactive method. It's both an entertaining and interactive masterclass where you learn the tri-unity process for discovering disempowering mind stories and archetypes and characters and replace them with empowering ones. So just go to goldenagetimeline.com/events and you'll see it there at the top of the page, or see the link in the show notes. And if you want to get a copy of the novel Helio Tropez, just go to goldenagetimeline.com. It's now won 3 book awards and is a bestseller in time travel fiction. Or if you want to find it on Amazon, it's spelled Helio, next word Tropez, or Z if you're an American. So it's Helio as in another name for the sun, and Tropez as in the city of Saint Tropez in France. Or look in the show notes for the link to Amazon. So do hit like, share, and subscribe, and notifications if you haven't already done so. Until next time, I'm Carla Rieger. Thank you for listening.